Today I want to talk about my technical writing book collection, but before we do that, I want to show off my nerd corner. This is my favorite corner of the house. Here we have my Dungeons and Dragons and Tarot card and Critical Role collection. There we have Vlog Brothers and my ukulele. These are books that I've already read. These are my all-time favorite books. These are my go-to books when I don't have anything to read. I just grab one of them and just read it because I love them so much. These are books next on my to-read list. And then these are my technical writing books. These are the books we are going to talk about today. This is my absolute favorite technical writing book, Writing Proposals. We used this book for the proposal writing class when I was doing my master's in technical communication. And the reason I love this book so much is because it does an excellent job of explaining the technical writing concepts for writing proposals, which I think is one of the most difficult documents you can write as a tech writer. There's something at stake with proposals. It's not just like an how-to guide where things don't work out, they can figure it out. It's like a make or break situation when you're submitting a proposal for something. Depending on how strong your proposal is, you either get the funding or you don't, or you get the project or you don't. In my opinion, proposals is one of the most difficult documents to write as a tech writer. And this book does an excellent job of explaining how to use the technical writing principles to write proposals. It talks about rhetoric and the four rhetorical elements and how to use them to write strong proposals. And this is probably one of my most highlighted books. Talks about audience analysis. This book is the best resource for audience analysis that I've ever found in my career so far. I absolutely love the audience analysis discussion in this book. And then it goes into more proposal specific things which might not be applicable to everyone, but it has things like structuring content, like different methods of structuring content. For example, they're given a new method, when to use passive voice, elevating the tone, like style stuff. It's just a really, really good book for understanding tech writing. It also talks about like document design, how to use like graphics well. So yeah, it's my absolute favorite book for technical writing. I don't have a hard copy of my second favorite technical writing book, but I do have it on Kindle. It is Modern Technical Writing by Andrew Etter. I have talked a lot about this book on this channel, and I still stand by that recommendation. I really like this book because it gives a very realistic insight into life as a tech writer in the modern software industry. It talks about developer documentation and GitHub and coding, and like it's a really good book. You're a beginner tech writer curious about this field, I'd highly recommend you go through this book. My third favorite technical writing book is this book, the International Technical Communication book. This is also another book that came across when I was doing my master's in technical communication. Actually, International Tech Comm was my favorite subject when I was doing my master's because I came from India and I was in the US and I was going through all the cultural differences situations. So it was the course that I could relate the most to, and I also got a lot of practical implementable insights that I could act on immediately. So like talking to my professors, talking to my students, it was just a good book and a good course to help me adapt to the US culture and especially the US academic culture. This is one of my favorite books because for like sentimental reasons than anything else, but it's also like it has some really good content, so definitely check it out. The last book on my technical communication category is this book called Technical Communication, and I have to be honest, it's not one of my favorite books. It's academic textbook for undergraduate engineering students. So I used this book when I was teaching at Missouri S&T, and this was the book that we had to use. It's a good book, don't get me wrong. It's a good book for the audience that it serves, which is engineering students who don't have to write extensive, like they're not training to be tech writers. They just need to know how to communicate the things they're working on well, and this book does a good job of that, no doubt. It's a really good book for a primer to technical writing. My problem with this book is that some of the content is outdated, and also this book is extremely expensive. It's like I think $108, and I felt really bad and kind of guilty for making my students pay that much money for a textbook. But then textbooks are always that expensive, so my students were kind of used to it. And I'm seeing a movement in the technical communication academic circles where they are moving away from expensive textbooks and moving towards more open source materials. And I'm very, very happy with that movement. But it's a good book, it has good content, and I again have very fond memories of using this book in the classroom. So I like having it in my collection for reference and also for sentimental reasons. Moving on to the next category of books is my writing books. So this is my current favorite writing book. Everybody Writes, and I cannot stop singing praises for this book. This is probably the book I have highlighted the most and gotten the most value of. I picked up this book when I knew that I was going to change roles and move from tech writing to developer relations, and I knew I had to diversify my writing and learn different forms of tech writing now. So I was looking into books about marketing writing, like how to convey technical information as a person on the marketing team. And this was a gold mine of resources for developer advocates, for tech marketers, anybody who wants to get better at writing, to be honest. I cannot praise this book enough. It is very accessible, very relatable, a very easy read, and has a lot of good actionable insights that I find very useful. I'll definitely do a detailed book review of this book because I love it so much. So this is my new favorite writing book. Before I got that book, this was my all-time favorite writing book. It's a very old book. It has been like, I think the first edition was like the second edition was 1980. I don't know when the first edition was, but I think it's like a classic. Even though it is old, the principles are very, very relevant today. And this is the book that inspires the writer in me. It wants me to become a better writer. It wants me to learn the craft of writing. It wants me to improve my craft of writing. This is a book that I flip through almost every month just because I love it so much, and it just, keeps me motivated. It's my go-to comfort book. My third favorite writing book is this one, On Writing by Stephen King. I also flipped through it quite a bit. This is a very interesting read. It's memoir and writing advice combined. And you see I have a lot of sticky notes in here because I'm doing a writing experiment and I'm making a vlog about it. So these are just the things that I want to reference when I'm doing the writing experiment and recording it. But it's also a very good book. It is typical Stephen King content where it's very interesting content, but it kind of gets cringy because its descriptions are so visceral that you can't help but feel those emotions. I'm used to it. Like, I expected from his fiction books. I did not expect it from his writing book, but that's Stephen King, and that's what makes him such a good writer. Definitely a vlog coming up about this book, about using the advice in this book, so stay tuned for the vlog. And my least favorite writing book that many people are going to disagree with is The Elements of Style. This is a classic. Many people consider it a Bible for writing. I found good value in it, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I don't like the writing style. I think the content is good. Some of it is outdated, but it's also a really old book, so I don't want to judge it by today's standards, but I find the writing to be very inaccessible. I feel like sometimes the authors are talking down to me, and I don't like when books do that. But the content is good, and it does help me think through my writing mistakes. I found quite a few insights from this book, some mistakes that I kind of keep repeating. So I like having this book on my desks just to, remind myself not to make those mistakes. Let me put it this way. I like this book, but I'm not as big a fan of it as many people are. So yeah, but I still like having it in my collection. Moving on to the next category is the books about technology. And this is the new category. I started collecting books about tech when I found out I was going to switch roles, and I wanted to find out how other people are doing tech writing, non-traditional tech writing. This is not a book, this is a booklet or a zine about SQL, and this is by Julia Evans. And you should subscribe to her newsletter if you haven't. It is amazing. And I love how accessible and fun she makes the content. This is what I mean when I say I want to diversify my tech writing, finding out different ways of communicating technical information that are not traditional technical documents. This is the type of writing that I aspire to do or I want to experiment with, is making it more fun and making it more accessible and more catchy and not just dry technical documents. So the style is more conversational, it's more accessible with like fun graphic, like fun images and stuff and call outs. I really, really like this zine, and I like having it on my in my collections just as a source of inspiration. The next book in this category is the best one I have found so far. I am in love with this book. This is probably my favorite book of 2020, Swipe to Unlock, and it's a primer on technology and business strategy. And what I love about this book is that they do an excellent job of combining tech with business. Like explaining tech in terms of business and in terms of real world value. So what I mean by that is it's not like how search works, it's like how Google search works. If this was a technical document, this would be how algorithms work, but they frame it in terms of how does Spotify recommend songs to you. So they make it more relatable. They do a great job at audience analysis. They do a great job at making it more relatable and more real, things that you actually care about and are curious about. And then they go into the technological details of it. And again, they keep it simple, but not simplistic. And that's the thing that I love the most about this book, is that they respect the audience's intelligence and they do a good job of explaining things without dumbing them down. So yeah, an absolute favorite read. I'll do a deep dive book review of this book as well because I love it so much. The next book in this category is How to Speak Tech. It has a similar approach as Swipe to Unlock, but I find this to be a little less accessible than Swipe to Unlock. It's still a good book. It's still a good read in an accessible manner in this book, but it's kind of a dense read. I don't like it as much as I like Swipe to Unlock, but it is still a good read. And my least favorite book in this category is The Phoenix Project. Again, this is something I might get flack for because this is a very popular book. It's a very hyped book, which is one of the reasons I picked it up, because I wanted to see what the hype was all about. And I haven't gotten through a lot of it. I cannot read this book. I cannot bring myself to read this book much. I find it to be kind of outdated. I find this book to be a little irritating, a little sexist, but I still want to finish it just to see what the hype is all about. But I don't think it's going to be in my permanent collection. I think once I'm done reading it once, I'm going to donate it to the library. And then the final category of books is my productivity books. And my absolute favorite productivity book is Getting Things Done. This is probably the most useful book I have ever read in my career so far. I live by this book. This is how I get all my work done. This is the secret to my productivity. This is how I manage my full-time job and my YouTube channel and my social life and personal life and all of those things. So I cannot recommend this book highly enough. I'll do a deep dive book review of this book as well because I think everybody in the world should read this book. It's really, really, really good. So if you're looking to improve your productivity, please get Getting Things Done by David Allen. I'll say this though, this book is also pretty old. Though it says brand new edition for 2015, they have kind of tried to update the concepts, but it was originally meant for managers at manufacturing industries. So some of the examples and some of the concepts feel outdated, but if you can figure out a way to make them applicable to your situation, they work wonders. So the principles are kind of universal and timeless. It's just you need to make them relevant to your use case. That's what I want to do in the book review when I do a deep dive on this book, is how I use the principles in this book as a tech writer or as a person working in the modern software industry. And my final book, Deep Work. Again, this is the secret to my productivity. It tells you how to focus. I use it along with the Pomodoro method. And again, a very, very good book. All of Cal Newport's books are really good, but this one is my favorite. So if you want to increase your productivity, I highly recommend reading Deep Work along with Getting Things Done. I think that's like the productivity superpower combo. So that's my book collection. stay tuned for deep dive book reviews for some of my favorite books, and I might even do giveaways when I do the book reviews. So a lot of fun things coming your way. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.